なかなか自分の気持ちっていうのは切り替わらずに、ショートプログラム終わった当日も寝つけなかったです、正直。ただその次の日、練習に行って、また不安な気持ちはあったんですけど、またそこで、しっかりと、リクちゃんからも励ましていただいて、また眠れなかった。
When Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara skate together, it feels like lightning strikes across the ice. Those powerful words came from renowned Canadian coach Bruno Marcotte, the man who guided the pair known as Rikuryu throughout their remarkable journey. What makes this statement so fascinating is that it was not something he said after they became Olympic champions or after they stood on top of the world. He felt it long before the medals, long before the records, and long before the entire skating world knew their names. At a time when many people still question whether a Japanese pair team could ever reach the highest level of international competition, Marcotte had already noticed something extraordinary. It wasn't just their technical ability. It wasn't something that could be measured by scores or rankings. There was a unique spark that appeared whenever they stepped onto the ice together. The moment their blades touched the surface in perfect harmony, something special came alive. Marcotte described that feeling as lightning. But when did he first realize they were different? What convinced him that these two skaters could someday stand at the very top of the sport? And how did that instinct eventually help lead Japan to its first Olympic gold medal in pair skating? This is the incredible story of the coach who saw greatness before anyone else, and the pair that changed history forever. Story begins in 2019. At that point, Ryuichi Kihara found himself standing at a crossroads. He was already one of Japan's most experienced pair skaters, having represented his country at both the 2014 and 2018 Winter Olympics. Yet pair skating is unlike any other sport. No matter how talented or experienced an athlete may be, success is impossible without the right partner. After ending a previous partnership, Kihara faced an uncertain future. There was no guarantee that another skater would come along who could share the same dreams, the same commitment, and the same vision. After dedicating years to Japanese pair skating and competing in 2 Olympic Games, it would have been understandable if he had begun to wonder whether his competitive career was nearing its end. At the same time, a young and talented skater named Riku Miura was searching for a partner of her own. She possessed tremendous potential and natural athletic ability, but talent alone is never enough in pair skating. A skater needs someone she can trust completely, someone who can lift her high above the ice without hesitation, someone she can rely on during dangerous throw jumps, someone who will get back up beside her after every fall and every setback. Without that connection, the road to the world stage remains closed. The man who brought these two athletes together was Bruno Marcotte. From the beginning, he saw something special in Miura. She was fearless, courageous, and mentally strong enough to become a world-class pair skater. Believing in her potential, Marcotte arranged a tryout between Miura and Kihara. At the time, nobody could have predicted that this simple test session would eventually alter the course of Japanese skating history. For Kihara, it was an opportunity that might determine whether he continued competing. For Miura, it represented a possible doorway to a new future. And for Marcotte, it was a chance to discover whether the feeling he had about these two athletes was real. During that tryout, the pair attempted one of the most difficult elements in pair skating, a twist lift. In this breathtaking move, the male skater launches his partner high into the air. She rotates overhead, and then he catches her before she lands. The element requires far more than strength and technique. It demands perfect timing, complete trust, and natural chemistry between two athletes who often have never skated together before. Most new partnerships need months of training before such elements feel comfortable. But when Miura and Kihara performed their very first twist, Marcotte was stunned. Years later, he would remember that moment vividly. The twist seemed to fly effortlessly through the air. It looked natural. It looked easy. Most importantly, it felt different. There were no world titles yet, no Olympic medals, no international fame. But in that brief moment, Marcotte sensed that he was witnessing something unusual. He realized that these two athletes possessed a natural connection that could not be taught. It wasn't something created through endless practice sessions. It was there from the very beginning. Marcotte has admitted that he did not immediately predict Olympic gold. Even he could not see that far into the future. But he knew there was something rare about this partnership, something that separated them from ordinary pairs. It was a feeling he could not ignore. Later that year, Miura and Kihara officially became a team and moved to Canada to train under Marcotte's guidance. Leaving Japan was not an easy decision. It meant adapting to a new language, a new culture, and a completely different training environment. It meant leaving family and friends behind in pursuit of a dream. Yet both skaters understood that if they wanted to compete against the world's best, they needed to challenge themselves in every possible way. Their trust in Marcotte was immense, and Marcotte returned that trust by investing everything he had into their development. Only a few months after forming their partnership, Rikuryu made their international debut at the 2019 NHK Trophy. Competing against some of the strongest pairs in the world, they finished 5th overall. While it was not a medal performance, the result immediately caught people's attention. A newly formed partnership achieving 5th place at a major international event after only 3 months together was extraordinary. Fans around the world began to notice them. Many observers commented that the pair looked genuinely happy when they skated together. There was a natural joy in their performances. They seemed to trust each other completely. Kihara's steady presence and Miura's fearless commitment created a combination that was impossible to overlook. Even before they became champions, people sensed that something exciting was beginning. Of course, the road ahead was far from easy. The world of sports soon faced enormous challenges. Competitions were canceled or postponed. Training schedules were disrupted. Injuries forced difficult setbacks. In pair skating, one athlete's injury becomes a problem for both partners. When one skater is unable to train, the entire team stops moving forward. The emotional burden is shared just as much as the physical one. Yet despite every obstacle, Miura and Kihara continued progressing step by step. At the 2021 World Championships, they finished 10th. It was a respectable result, but they still had work to do before reaching the elite level. Then came the 2022 Beijing Olympics. The pair finished 7th in the individual event and helped Japan secure a medal in the team competition. For Japanese pair skating, simply competing confidently against the world's best was already historic. Yet their greatest breakthrough was still ahead. Shortly after Beijing, Miura and Kihara captured the silver medal at the World Championships. It was a landmark achievement. Never before had a Japanese pair reached such heights on the world stage. Around this time, Marcotte once again described them as a truly special team. He wasn't praising them because they were winning medals. He was simply seeing the same qualities he had recognized years earlier finally beginning to produce results. Then came 2023, the year that changed everything. Miura and Kihara became world champions, making history as the first Japanese pair ever to win a world title. For decades, many believed that Japanese pair skating could never compete consistently with the traditional powerhouses of the sport. Rikuryu shattered those assumptions. They proved that the impossible was possible. They proved that a dream could become reality. Around that time, Marcotte shared the quote that would become famous throughout the skating world. He explained that what truly separates Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara from everyone else is the lightning that appears when they skate together. It wasn't a casual compliment. It was the observation of a coach who had spent decades studying elite athletes. He knew technical skills, he knew performance quality, he knew championship potential. Yet when he searched for words to describe Rikuryu, he chose lightning. Lightning is impossible to ignore. It appears suddenly, captures everyone's attention, and leaves a lasting impression. That's exactly what happens when Miura and Kihara perform. Their powerful lifts, elegant movements, and seamless synchronization create something that feels larger than the sport itself. Watching them is not just about witnessing successful elements. It's about experiencing a connection between two athletes who move as one. You can see it in the way Kihara lifts Miura effortlessly above the ice. You can see it in Miura's complete trust as she flies through the air without fear. You can see it in the way they glide across the rink, their movements blending together into a single flowing performance. Most importantly, you can see it in the small moments, the glance they exchange during a program, the smiles that appear after a successful routine, and the genuine joy they share in competition. Those moments reach beyond scores and rankings. They connect directly with the audience. Marcotte never believed their greatness came solely from athletic ability. What impressed him most was the magic that only appeared when the two skaters performed together. It wasn't something Miura could create alone. It wasn't something Kihara could create alone. It existed only when they joined forces. That unique chemistry became their greatest strength and the foundation of one of the most remarkable success stories in figure skating history. And as their career continued, the results kept coming. More victories, more records, more historic milestones, including Japan's first-ever four-continents championship title in pair skating. Each achievement served as further proof that Bruno Marcotte's first impression had been correct. From the very beginning, he saw the lightning. The rest of the world simply needed time to see it too. The victories kept coming. Rikuryu became the first Japanese pair to win the Grand Prix final, and by 2025, they once again climbed to the top of the World Championships. Few people in Japan could have imagined that pair skating would one day become a discipline where Japanese athletes stood at the center of the global spotlight. For decades, simply competing against the world's elite seemed like an enormous challenge. Yet Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara kept turning impossible dreams into historic firsts. Still, despite all their achievements, one prize remained just out of reach: the Olympic individual gold medal. Then came the 2026 Milano Cortina Olympics. Entering the Games as reigning world champions and one of the favorites for gold, Rikuryu arrived on the biggest stage of their careers. It was the moment they had spent years chasing. Every early morning practice in Canada, every sacrifice, every setback, and every lesson learned under coach Bruno Marcotte had led to this opportunity. But the dream was suddenly shaken during the short program. A costly lift mistake left the pair sitting in fifth place. For athletes who had entered the competition aiming for Olympic gold, the result felt devastating. Later, Kihara admitted that he was overwhelmed with despair. He struggled to find a way forward and questioned how he could recover emotionally from such a painful setback. Reports revealed that even during practice on the morning of the free skate, tears continued to fall from his eyes. The skater who had spent years supporting his partner suddenly found himself unable to lift his own spirits. After 7 years of working toward this moment, he felt as though one mistake might have pushed their Olympic dream out of reach. The weight of that responsibility was almost unbearable. But this time, it was Miura who stepped forward to provide strength. She refused to let the story end there. She reminded Kihara that the competition was not over and that they still had a chance to fight. Before the free skate, she reportedly looked at him and said, "Today, I'll skate for you." Kihara immediately responded with words that perfectly captured the heart of their partnership. "Let's skate for each other." From the outside, pair skating may appear to be a sport where the man supports the woman. He performs the lifts, makes the catches, and provides the visible strength. But the reality is much deeper than that. Pair skating is built on mutual trust and mutual support. Sometimes Kihara lifts Miura high above the ice. Other times, when Kihara's spirit begins to break, Miura becomes the one lifting him. That balance, that willingness to carry each other through difficult moments, became the true foundation of Rikuryu's success. Coach Bruno Marcotte also played a crucial role in helping them regain their focus. According to reports, before the free skate, he delivered a simple but powerful message. "Today, your goal is to be the best pair in the world today." He reminded them not to think about the previous day's mistake, not to think about rankings, not to think about medal calculations. Their only mission was to perform the best program they possibly could in that moment. Marcotte's words helped redirect their attention away from disappointment and back toward the task in front of them. Then the free skate began. The music they had chosen was Gladiator, a story about struggle, resilience, and rising again after defeat. The theme could not have been more fitting. Just like the heroes of that story, Rikuryu were stepping back onto the ice after a crushing setback, determined to fight one more time. As the program started, there was no sign of fear, no sign of doubt. Their speed across the ice immediately commanded attention. When they completed the opening element successfully, the atmosphere inside the arena began to shift. Another element landed cleanly, and the applause grew louder. Kihara launched Miura high into the air with confidence. Miura extended beautifully through every movement. Then came a massive throw jump, and she landed it with authority. Element after element, the performance built momentum. The crowd wasn't simply watching a clean program anymore. A different feeling was spreading through the arena. Spectators began to sense that they might be witnessing something historic. Every successful element pulled the audience deeper into the performance. Every moment increased the tension. Every second felt larger than the one before. It was no longer about recovering from a mistake. It was about creating a performance that could redefine Japanese figure skating forever. It was the kind of moment that made everyone inside the arena feel they were witnessing something unforgettable. Even international media recognized that something extraordinary was unfolding. Reports noted that while many pairs struggled under the immense pressure of the Olympic stage, the atmosphere completely changed the moment Rikuryu stepped onto the ice. Ryuichi Kihara's powerful throw elements, Riku Miura's confident landings, and the emotional gladiator program combined to create a performance unlike any other that night. As the music built toward its climax, the crowd became fully invested in every movement. Then came the moment that said it all. Before the final scores had even appeared, the entire arena rose to its feet. It was the only standing ovation of the evening. The instant the performance ended, Kihara collapsed into tears. The emotions he had fought to contain throughout the competition finally poured out. Miura was equally overwhelmed. Just 24 hours earlier, it had felt as if their Olympic dream was slipping away. Kihara had spent the morning in tears, struggling to overcome the disappointment of the short program. Yet somehow together they had found the strength to skate the performance of their lives. Then the scores appeared. 158.13 points for the free skate, 231.24 points overall. Olympic gold medal. For the first time in history, a Japanese pair stood atop the Olympic podium. 7 years earlier, Bruno Marcotte had introduced these two skaters. He had watched their very first twist element and felt something special. Years later, after they became world champions, he described that feeling with a phrase that would become legendary. When they skate together, lightning strikes. On that unforgettable night in Milan, the entire world finally saw exactly what he meant. The performance moved far more than the spectators inside the arena. International media outlets around the globe celebrated what Rikuryu had accomplished. Reports highlighted how their free skate earned the only standing ovation of the night. Journalists praised their ability to overcome heartbreak, doubt, and adversity to deliver a performance worthy of Olympic history. What touched people most wasn't simply the fact that Japan had won a gold medal. It was the story behind it. One day earlier, everything had fallen apart. One day later, they returned hand in hand and delivered the greatest performance of their careers. That story transcended language, nationality, and culture. Anyone could understand it. When one person falls, the other helps them rise. When one person's confidence begins to fade, the other becomes their strength. And when the world doubts them, they continue fighting together. That was the true power of Rikuryu. For Bruno Marcotte, the moment carried a special meaning as well. Reports described how the veteran coach struggled to hold back tears after the performance. It's easy to understand why. Back in 2019, Kihara had been uncertain about his future in the sport. Miura had been searching for the right partner. Marcotte was the one who brought them together. He was the one who believed in their potential before the medals arrived. He guided them through injuries, disappointments, victories, and comebacks. He watched them grow from a promising new partnership into Olympic champions. So when the final result became official, it wasn't just a victory for Miura and Kihara. It was the realization of a dream they had all built together. Of course, the athletes themselves deserve the credit. They were the ones risking everything on the ice. They were the ones facing fear, pressure, and expectation every time they competed. But there is no question that Bruno Marcotte played a vital role in their journey. He recognized their talent, he believed in them, he challenged them, and when they needed support, he helped guide them forward. Perhaps that's why his famous quote remains so powerful. When they skate together, lightning strikes. Those words were never simply a prediction. They became reality. First came Japan's first world championship title in pair skating, then Japan's first four continents championship title, then Japan's first Grand Prix final victory, and finally, Japan's first Olympic gold medal in pair skating. The special spark Marcotte noticed all those years ago eventually became a light that illuminated an entirely new future for Japanese figure skating. Maybe the reason the world fell in love with Rikuryu wasn't just because they won. Maybe it wasn't only because their technique was beautiful. Maybe it was because they showed what true partnership looks like. Two athletes trusting each other completely. Two athletes sharing every success and every setback. Two athletes refusing to let go of each other's hand, no matter how difficult the journey became. That is what captured the hearts of coaches, journalists, and fans around the world. When Bruno Marcotte first saw them skate together, he recognized something special long before the results arrived. Long before anyone imagined Olympic gold. Long before history was made. 7 years later, Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara stood on top of the world. They reached a place no Japanese pair had ever reached before. And just as their coach predicted, they lit up the ice like lightning and left the entire world in awe. For anyone who has followed sports long enough, this story hits differently. A coach from another country believed in two Japanese athletes before anyone else could see their future. Those athletes repaid that faith through years of hard work, sacrifice, and unwavering determination. Together, they built a bond that crossed borders, cultures, and languages. And that bond ultimately led to one of the most historic gold medals in Japanese sports history. Riku Miura, Ryuichi Kihara, and Bruno Marcotte. Three people, one dream, one extraordinary journey, and a story that will inspire generations of athletes for years to come.